Last year, when the Chicago Cubs signed Cody Bellinger, they were betting on a bounce back, and a bounce back they got. The former NL MVP was a star once again, as he ranked 4th among all NL hitters in batting average, 6th in slugging percentage, and 8th in WRC+. That bounce back has him primed still to sign a big contract now in free agency. The year before last, we saw Albert Pujols have an incredible victory lap on his way to retirement, as he ended up hitting 24 home runs with a 149 WRC+, his best offensive performance by far since 2015. Who will be the bounce back player in 2024 that we should all keep our eye on? Let's speculate by looking at the National League East and identifying some candidates from each team who could bounce back in a major way. If you like this content, make sure you hit the subscribe button and comment as well with your favorite bounce back picks for the 2024 season. We now begin with the Atlanta Braves, and there is a clear bounce back candidate that all eyes will be on this year. Of course, we're talking about Chris Sale. Now, last year could have been considered the bounce back season for Sale because he was finally healthy. He made 20 starts, he pitched to a 4.30 ERA, got over 100 innings pitched for the first time in a long time, but there is still more in the tank. At least that's what the Braves are hoping for. They are expecting a return of the Chris Sale of old, or at least a version of that by the time they get to October. Not only did they trade for Chris Sale, they also went out of their way to extend him beyond this season. So this is a clear bet that the Atlanta Braves are making that Chris Sale will bounce back. And if you look at his strikeout per 9 last year of 10.96, this stuff is absolutely still there with Chris Sale. It's really just about staying on the mound, and the result should follow with that. Now, another honorable mention to discuss when it comes to the Braves is Travis d'Arnaud. He had an all-star season in 2022, but saw his OPS drop from 791 down to 685 last year, while his Fangraphs wins above replacement plummeted from 4 all the way down to 0.9. He might not ever be able to get back to that career best performance in 2022, but if you look at his batting average on balls put in play of 258 and his 330 expected WOBA, those are some strong indicators that there is definitely still more left in the tank for d'Arnaud, who should have a bounce back year. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Phillies, and their prime bounce back candidate is catcher JT Realmuto. Now, Realmuto was not awful last year. He still hit 20 home runs and stole 16 bases, which is a lot of production from the catcher position, but it paled in comparison to what he did in 2022 when he was one of the best players on the Phillies and arguably the best catcher in baseball. Those days may be behind him, especially when you consider how the defense dropped off last year, but there is still hope that Realmuto can get back to his previous form, particularly when it comes to raising that batting average and getting on base at a better clip. Also, getting that defense back, because that was always a hallmark for Realmuto. So if he starts to lose that, the back half of this contract with the Phillies is certainly not going to look as good as it once did when he was putting up a 6-win season in 2022. Now, we have 2 honorable mentions on the Phillies, and both of these guys are well paid. Kind of crazy to call Aaron Nola a bounce back candidate after signing a 7-year, $172 million deal, but if you look at the stats from last season, he was not the pitcher that we would expect him to be. He had a 4.46 ERA, although if you look at the underlying numbers, the fact that his expected ERA was 3.77, that is a greater indicator of the player that he should be moving forward. If you look at the Zips projection model, they have him being the most valuable pitcher in all of baseball this year, while Steamer has him 4th. So don't be surprised if Nola has a big year on the first season of his 7-year deal. And speaking of big deals, Trey Turner already had his bounce back in the last couple of months of last season. He hit .317 with a .371 on base and a .629 slug with 16 home runs and a .165 WRC plus in his final 51 games played. That means he was 65% better than your league average hitter. He was nearly worth 3 wins during that span. So if he can just continue off of that, he's going to have a great season. But if you look at the numbers altogether last year, he certainly had a down year compared to the 2 years he had going into free agency, where he was a 6-win player each season. Moving on to the final playoff team that came out of the National League East last season, the Miami Marlins just picked up a bounce-back candidate in Nick Gordon. This was a trade to acquire a player that has a lot of promise but was hurt all of last season. Once a top prospect, Nick Gordon fell off top 100 lists before he made his big league debut in 2021. 1 year later, he surprised everyone with a 111 WRC plus in 2022. When you combine his defense and his versatility, if he can be a 111 WRC plus guy, about 10% better than league average, that is an extremely valuable player. Last year, Gordon started at second base for the Minnesota Twins on opening day, but really struggled out of the gate, hitting just 106 through his first 17 games. He started to get better from there. Over the following 17 games, he brought his WRC plus up from minus 33 all the way up to 98, but unfortunately, he fractured his right tibia and missed the rest of the season. If the Marlins get a healthy version of Nick Gordon this year, he could really help them at multiple positions as a super utility player on a team that lacks a lot of depth. Beyond Gordon, another bounce-back candidate in the Marlins is Trevor Rogers. In his rookie season, Trevor Rogers finished runner-up in the NL Rookie of the Year when he pitched to a 2.64 ERA in 133 innings pitched. The following year, in 2022, he pitched to a 5.47 ERA in 23 starts and 107 innings pitched. Last year, he was hurt, only making 4 starts. First things first, Rogers needs to get back on the mound healthy, but there is still hope that Trevor Rogers can get back on the mound and return to that 2021 form when he was one of the best up-and-coming left-handed starters in all of baseball. We have been talking about bounce-back candidates with players. How about bounce-back candidates with teams? The New York Mets went from a 101-win team in 2022 to a 75-win team in 2023. A lot of that was due to some regression from their star players, and they need to see a big uptick in performance this year. While there are some incumbents that need to bounce back, it is a newcomer who could have the biggest impact. The Mets bet big on Luis Severino, signing him to a 1-year, $13 million deal, hoping he would bounce back to his prior all-star form. It's been a long time since Severino has been completely healthy and performing at his best, but he did have a pretty nice year in 2022 when he pitched to a 3.18 ERA and a 2.94 expected ERA in 102 innings pitched. That ERA would have ranked 8th among all qualified starters last year, while an expected ERA that low would have been the best mark in all of baseball. The problem, however, is that Severino did not match that 2022 performance in 2023 and instead pitched to a 6.65 ERA. Health is always going to be the primary concern for Severino, but there was also talk last year that he might have been tipping his pitches. If he can clean those things up, the Mets might just have a frontline starter that they can pair with Kodai Senga. A few honorable mentions from the Mets roster that need to bounce back for this team to be successful. We have Starling Marte and Jeff McNeil. Now, Marte could just be cooked following a career worst season at the plate and in the field, but he also is coming off double groin surgery and is supposed to be healthy right now after a full off season. Maybe he can get back to the guy he was in 2021 and 2022, who hit over 300 with a 133 WRC plus and 65 stolen bases across that 2-year span. That's why he got the $78 million contract with the Mets. He was an all-star in that first season in 2022, his second career all-star appearance, and he even received an MVP vote. Maybe Marte still has one more good season left in him, or that simply is one of the worst contracts in all of baseball. Jeff McNeil is the other honorable mention. He went from winning a batting title in 2022, hitting .326, to seeing that batting average drop to .270 last year, and even worse, his F-WAR total went from 5.7 wins above replacement all the way down to 2.6. Due to his defensive versatility and strong bat-to-ball skills, he's always going to be a valuable player on his contract. But the question is out there now if Jeff McNeil will ever return to all-star form. Finally, we go to the Washington Nationals, who just signed Jesse Winker to a minor league deal, giving them an intriguing bounce-back option to stick in the outfield. Now, Winker is coming off 2 awful seasons, but in 2021, he hit .305 with a .394 on base and a .556 slug. His weighted runs created plus was 148, and he was an all-star. Then he gets traded to the Mariners and sees the numbers dip to a 219 average with a 344 on base and a 344 slug, a 108 WRC plus, so just slightly better than league average. And then last year with the Brewers, it fell off a cliff. He hit just 1 home run in 61 games, did not bat above the Mendoza line with a 199 average and a 320 on base, a 247 slug. His WRC plus was 65, making him 35% worse than your league average hitter, but he was plagued with back injuries all year. If he is healthy this year, he's still just 30 years old and could absolutely bounce back. An honorable mention for the Nationals is Joey Meneses, who was great in his rookie year, hitting 324 with a 367 on base and a 563 slug. He had 13 home runs in 56 games and posted a 157 WRC plus, making him 57% better than your league average hitter. Last year, he saw those numbers drop off in his first full tour of duty, where he hit 275 with a 321 on base and a 401 slug. The WRC plus was at 96, so slightly below league average, and he matched his home run total from 2022 with just 13 while getting well more than double the plate appearances. Meneses could have just been a one-year wonder in a small sample size of 56 games played in 2022, but this will be a season where he can prove that that was not a fluke and he can get back to better production for the Nationals moving forward. With the 2024 season just around the corner, it'll be exciting to see these players get back on the field and try to bounce back from down years. Again, if there are any bounce back candidates that we missed, make sure you comment them below. If you enjoyed the content, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel if you don't want to miss out on any of the Just Baseball videos coming in the future.